So we are all familiar with the highly publicized celebrity divorces. And we looked at celebrities and other public figures and their divorces as a way to view divorce and marriage as kind of a microcosm, just often with much higher divorce settlement dollar amounts. But seriously, it seems like every day there's a new story in the news or the headlines about a celebrity couple calling it quits.
4 celebrities who were left penniless after a divorce. Number 1, Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's divorce from former dental nurse Robin Denise Moore cost him half his fortune. Gibson's net worth was valued at $850 million prior to the divorce, and he had $425 million less after the divorce was finalized in 2011. Number 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Since Schwarzenegger and his wife Maria Shriver did not have a prenup according to California law, it meant that Maria was entitled to half his fortune. The exact numbers have never officially been released, but estimates put Arnold's fortune at around $500 million and $750 million. Number 3, Steven Spielberg. Before tying the knot, Steven Spielberg and his first wife, Amy Irving, reportedly signed a prenuptial agreement on a napkin. Irving later argued the document was not valid because she was never represented by an attorney. Her legal argument proved to be sound, and she was eventually awarded $100 million after the divorce. Number 4, Harrison Ford. After 21 years of marriage, Harrison Ford and wife Melissa Matheson filed for divorce, and Melissa walked away with not only $85 million, but a percentage of all future royalty earnings from films made during their marriage.
And it makes you wonder, does that same thing apply to the average everyday person? And it makes you question, is marriage in 2025 doomed? Is it even worth it anymore? I mean, we've all heard the stats about how 50% of marriages end in divorce, but is that actually true?
50% of marriages end in divorce, or do they? No, first of all, it's a dumb thing to measure. Until the 1970s, divorce laws were very different, so really, it would have been a measurement of what percentage of couples are trapped in bad situations. Also, it's a dumb statistic because it doesn't take into consideration length, so the couple that held hands while the water came in on the Titanic counts exactly the same as someone who got hit by a bus on their honeymoon. Oh, but also, it doesn't take into consideration overachievers. Some people are really good at getting divorced, and if you stay married forever, you only get to count for one, but if someone gets divorced 5 times, they get to be counted 5 times. But even given all of those caveats to the statistic, no one actually bothered to measure because it would be too hard. The way you'd actually do this is you would track every single marriage that's ever happened, and you'd sort them into 3 buckets: still going, death did us part, and oopsie doodle. And the reason you can't do that is because that's too much data. A group of people put together the statistic, and you might be wondering, did they have a political agenda? Ha ha ha, of course. And what they did was the lazy math. They took the number of people who got married this year and the number of people who divorced this year, and they compared them. And those are obviously dumb numbers because those are mostly not the same people. You're basically saying that 50% of apples end in oranges. And now the craziest part? It's not even 50. If you do their bad math on their made-up numbers, you get 32%. That's the current rate. So we as a society need to split up with the 50-50 myth.
Okay, so I don't know if what he's saying is accurate or not. Some of it sounds like when he says about how, overachievers get counted more than once. Most of these statistics are based on a year-to-year metric, like he said at the end. So if you get divorced more than once, you're only gonna count more than once in a given year, unless you get divorced multiple times in 1 year, which just seems crazy. But overall, I do think that he's correct that the whole idea about 50% of marriages ending in divorce is just something people throw around and may not be that accurate. With that being said, there's something to be said between the distinction of divorce and just failure, because you can still be married and failing. So let's take a look at what this divorce attorney has to say about that.
There's about a 56% chance that your marriage will end in divorce.
What percentage of marriages do you think actually fail?
If we consider failure staying together miserable for the children or staying together for financial, economic reasons, and then we add that to the 56% that end in divorce, then, it would be very hard to track that, but I think it's generous to think it's another 20% probably. But think about what that adds up to. That means that you've got something that fails 75% of the time. That is more likely than not to cause significant harm in your life. So the statistic that's even more interesting to me is that 86% of people who divorce remarry within 5 years. So think about that. Now you've done this thing. It's failed. You've gone through this difficult process of having to undo it. And now within 5 years, 86% of people remarry. I mean, so that tells you how important this is to us as humans.
So we all know about these celebrities who like to get married and divorce like it's a hobby, i.e. Jennifer Lopez, we're looking at you. I mean, I don't know why they do it. And I know people personally that do the same thing. They do it as if it's some kind of, like I said, a hobby, like it's a sport. I get married and it's not that big of a deal. Whatever happened to the till death do you part thing, I don't know. But nonetheless, what he's saying does hold a lot. I think it's true. Some people stay married even though they shouldn't because they're not happy or they do it for the kids or for finances or for legal reasons or what have you. And so it makes you ask like, why, right? And why do these celebrities do it? Like again, like Jennifer Lopez, why does she keep getting married? Why? What's the point? Just be with the person and don't get married. You know, I'm not sure who else. Let me know in the comment section who I'm forgetting. I'm sure there's plenty of celebrities who have been married thousands of times, not literally. And I'm sure that you know people in your own personal life who've been married, divorced, married, divorced. And again, no shade at anybody. It's just, I wonder why. That said, the next question is, who is affected most when it comes to divorces?
To pay alimony to your ex-husband. I don't know if the number is correct. I Googled, I saw it was like $30,000 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
Looking back on it in hindsight, what would you have done differently when you first got married in terms of shielding your assets?
I would have never let a person have that much power over my money, my life, over anything ever again.
Kelly Clarkson's divorce from Brandon Blackstock has been finalized. Per court documents obtained by The Blast, Clarkson will pay her ex a massive one-time payment of just over $1.3 million, as well as a monthly child support payment of $45,601 for their two children, 7-year-old River Rose and 5-year-old Remington Alexander. The payment started on February 1st. Additionally, the couple agreed on having joint custody of their children, although they will live at Clarkson's Los Angeles residence. Another stipulation of the agreement is that both children will be vaccinated against COVID-19, as they will be traveling out of state to see their father at the former couple's Montana ranch, where he'll be living for the time being. Although Clarkson is getting both of their Montana properties, Blackstock will pay her $2,000 per month while he stays there until June. In addition to the one-time payment, Clarkson will also pay Blackstock $115,000 in spousal support each month until January 31st, 2024.
So I included these two clips because I wanted to make it a point that while oftentimes it's the man in the relationship who has to end up paying the most money or has the most to lose in a divorce situation, it's not always the case. And that's because it's not about what the gender is or what gender you are. It's about who's the breadwinner. As you can see, Mary J. Blige and Kelly Clarkson both had to pay alimony to their former spouses when they got divorced. So it can go either way. What I don't want to normally get with these celebrity divorces, and I'm sure divorces in real life too, is that if you have split 50-50 custody, why are you paying child support? To me, that's confusing. If you have 50% of the time with the child and then the other person has 50% of the time with the child, wouldn't you just both pay child support to each other or not pay child support at all because you're both doing equally the amount of taking care of the kids? I don't get it. And the whole idea of alimony to me is just crazy. I mean, I can get it in some circumstances if you have a person where they've been staying at home raising the kids for 20 years and now you get divorced and they don't have any job experience or any way to go make money. I get that. Or if they helped you build your business, I get that. But other than that, the whole idea of spousal support, I don't know, it's a little weird to me. Nonetheless, I wanted to include those just because I really wanted to make the point that, like I said, we look at these celebrity couples or celebrity divorces as ways to look at divorce and marriage at a broader sense. And it's not always the man who is stuck with the short end of the stick. So with that said, what does this mean for the everyday person? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for me? Really quickly, stay with me here. Let's see how much it costs for the average person when they get divorced in the US. So according to the Motley Fool, the average cost of divorce in the US is $11,300 and the median is $7,000. And taking a quick look at the table they provided in this article, with no major contested issues, the average cost of a divorce is $4,100. Not that bad. But all the way down at the bottom of the table, you can see if the divorce proceedings go to trial with 2 or more issues, the average is $23,300, so a much bigger jump. So with that being said, guys, I know most of us don't have Taylor Swift money or Denzel Washington money or Michael B. Jordan money or what have you. Name your favorite celebrity, Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, whatever. But how does this really affect us everyday people when it comes to marriage and divorce? And I think that there's some good things to be learned from these celebrity divorces. And number one is to move slowly. a lot of people tend to get married when they're in the honeymoon phase, which according to different sources say lasts between anywhere from 3 months to 2 years on average. So I think personally, let me know what you think in the comments, that if you're gonna marry someone, maybe you should pump the brakes a bit and at least give it 2 years before you sign on the dotted line. Number 2 is to consider a prenup. And I will let James Sexton talk a little bit more about that.
What's your view on prenups, prenuptial agreements?
It's not popular to quote Kanye West, but if you ain't no chump, holla, we want prenup. We want prenup. I mean, that's what he had to say.
Meaning, so that's prenup is a good idea.
Prenup is an excellent idea. Prenup is a contract between two people that binds their respective rights and obligations in the event of a divorce when it comes to financial issues. That's all it is. And there's a lot of reasons to have them, and there really aren't any reasons not to have them other than the fact it requires an uncomfortable conversation.
Do they work legally
Yes.
in general?
Yes.
Okay, so the basic point of this, the basic moral of the story is they work. So I personally think that after listening to that, if you're okay with having that conversation with the person that you're about to marry, which I think you should be able to have tough conversations, maybe you're good to get a prenup. The third thing that I think most of us should probably do before we decide to get married is some level of self-education. A lot of times people go into marriage blind. It's just they go into it with the butterflies and the happy feelings. I'm looking at you again, J-Lo. And they don't really think about what it really means. And of course, she has tons of money, so for her, maybe it doesn't matter as much. But for me and you, it might be a little different. So again, let's listen to James Sexton, the divorce attorney. He's popular around the internet. And let's see what he has to say about self-education when it comes to marriage and divorce.
When you marry, and I don't mean spiritually marrying, having a marriage ceremony, I mean legally marrying, you're making changes to your rights and obligations under law. That's what you're doing. Like marriage, from a legal standpoint, what we mean when we say I got married is a state agency. It's been created by the state. Like this is a legal status that most people who are in it know nothing about. They just did the most legally significant thing they're ever going to do other than dying. And they have no idea what rights and obligations it created in them. And the first time they're going to get an education about it is in my office. That's crazy.
When they get divorced.
That's crazy.
Oh, there you have it, guys. Listen to the man himself. Like I said, at this point, he's a celebrity himself, divorce attorney. And so he's saying that a lot of people don't know anything about marriage at all. The legal part of it, not the wedding day and the butterflies, but the legal part of it that the state is overseeing until they end up in his office getting a divorce. Let that sink in. So a lot of these celebrities, again, they have a lot of money to, at least we think a lot of them have a lot of money to throw around. But still, the more money they have, the more money they have to lose. And again, if it's a celebrity married to another celebrity and they both have millions of dollars, maybe it doesn't matter that much. But if this is someone who has a celebrity or otherwise a lot of money versus someone who doesn't, they get married, well, that person might have a lot to lose. Not to say it's all about money, but this channel is about money, so I have to relate it back to the finances. I think that we should all protect ourselves. We should all obviously go into marriage with the hope that we're gonna stay with the person for forever till death do you part, right? Of course. But in the case that it doesn't work out, maybe you wanna take some advice from this divorce attorney, or maybe look at some of these celebrities and I don't know, just use them as a cautionary tale perhaps. So with that being said, I appreciate if you made it this far in the video. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and to subscribe if you feel so too inclined, because it helps with the algorithm and I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, make smart financial decisions.